What do you want to start with tonight?
Well, I think I'll start with the phrase "the devil you know." So we've got this strange gap in the transfer window. The transfer window starts properly, I think, on Monday next week, unless I'm wrong. And I think we should go to the devil we know and focus everything we can do to get Rocky to re-sign and to do a deal for Triantis. I mean, they are very much the devils we know. They were
Yep.
part of the star 17 game unbeaten run we had. Both of them played just about every game, I think, or near as damn it. And whilst we're looking to strengthen the spine of the team, and we certainly need a couple of extra strikers, that's for sure.
Hmm.
I think if we start with the devil we know, we're trying to do a deal. I think Triantis is going to cost us, it sounds like best part of 1 million.
Yep.
But he's 21. We know what he can do. We're only going to gain in that as time goes by. Excuse me. And Rocky, again, although I think he's got callings for further shores, that's reading in the press, that's the impression. But where I want to start is I don't know if the boys agree, but I think if we can focus and just get, before we do any other signings, they're the devils we know. If we can get those re signed, brilliant.
Aye. Well, what do you think, John?
I think that the the Rocky situation feels as if it's going one way. I think if there was going to
Mm-hmm.
be a deal, it'd have been signed before he was away on international duty. Um, and I just wonder, I don't see it being a 5-8 where they've agreed a deal and he's gone away and he'll sign it when he comes back and it'll
Uh-huh.
get torn up. But my instinct is that that's moved on. So I agree with Joe. It's nice to know what's in the building, but we've had. I think it was probably Jordan Abita was sort of the changing point in terms of how our recruitment strategy went, where you're looking at players over 25,
Hmm.
solid record in leagues, who could come in and do a job in Scotland. We've signed two players for next season, a 28-year-old and a 29-year-old. So I'm hoping that there's stuff in the background. If Rocky doesn't come back in, will they find something to bring Ryan back? I don't know. That may you go back to the devil, but the truth would be is that you'd want a better version of Ryan,
Yep.
not the Ryan that was a bit headstrong. I mean, a couple of years you'd be looking for something a bit more mature that can fit into what's been a fairly mature defensive unit. But no, I think I would expect the Rockies moving on.
Yeah, I
And I
think
think
so.
Miller's the other one in the back line where I'd be curious because if he's only got 1 year left,
Yep.
they're wanting money. Now's the time.
And Stephen, we saw tonight that Xavier Simons signed for Bolton. He was rumoured to be coming to Hibs and potentially seen as a bit of a Triantis replacement. Does that does that give you some confidence that maybe Triantis is closer than we think to signing for Hibs?
I think what we have in our favour for Triantis is he's been here. He knows what the club's about. He seems to have, I think, coming off a good personal season for him and a good season for the club. You would like to think that that's given him the appetite to perhaps come back. We're not far off when we were getting up to near 1 million for McCowan that went to Celtic. So I think clearly if the club have identified a player, they seem like they're willing to go to that seven-figure sum. And I think in Triantis, it's definitely a player that I'm sure we would all agree if we were to break the transfer record, which I think still De La Cruz, nigh on 20 years ago, which seems absolutely crazy. I think we'd all agree if we broke that and got Triantis in, that would be a fantastic signing. And if other targets are slipping through the fingers, perhaps maybe it gives more emphasis to try and go for Triantis, possibly.
Mm. And Ian, Triantis at £1 million plus is a pretty safe bet, isn't it? Like I think you said Joe about his age, or maybe you, John. Sorry, about Triantis, a young player still with plenty of developing still to go. Getting him back when we know what he can do, that's £1 million well spent, isn't it?
Yeah, you said Ian, I think you meant John.
No, I meant you, Ian. I was kind of bringing you in
Oh,
for that
okay,
one.
so I think Triantis is worth it. He's worth it, but I wouldn't. I mean, it's not the end of the world if we don't get him. I think we're in very good shape in midfield, as per your review in extra time. So I think we're in good shape in midfield. Triantis was, if we could get him, it'd be a luxury. It'd probably set a precedent for us for us going, beyond what we would normally budget for.
Mhm.
I think if we were to get Triantis, I think it would be indicative of Black Knight's influence, if you like. So it's certainly what I expected. What I'd expected when Black Knight came in, I'd expected, as I said at the time, somebody higher profile than Malky. It proved to be successful. I'd expected us to move to the next level, or at least begin to move to the next level. So I think we've actually outperformed expectations of Black Knight Group. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Triantis was partly responsible for that. But as you said, we've got a group of people in midfield who will be competing for places, and I think we're in good shape. Triantis would be fabulous, but I don't think we'd suffered that much with it.
And Jeff, the sort of Porto and Rocky question, would you be happy to see Porteous coming back?
Yes, if Rocky goes, he knows the league. He was an outstanding performer in the league, albeit, like Rocky, he had a mistake in him. Some outrageous ones that people seem to forget. The one where he passed it to Glenn the Hun Middleton at Easter Road, which had an open goal.
Yeah.
COVID season, was it? Just a lot of them. But he's a few years older now, so people on about a mature Porto, learnt from his mistakes, maybe learnt a lesson down south that he's not the big I am, which he appeared to be from all the stories we heard. But the third hand, you don't know. He might be okay. Would I be happy having him back? Yes, but if there's one person, if we go on to Malky's no dickheads rule, David Gray. Did David Gray play with Porto, or did he just manage him? I can't remember.
I think they played together under Lennon.
Yeah,
no, there wouldn't have been much, but I mean,
Yeah.
Gray would have worked with Porto for
Okay,
a long
so you
time.
got-
So
yeah, so you got David Gray and you got Malky, no dickheads, Mackay. I think if anybody could handle Porto and if he is sometimes a bit of a dickhead, it'd be David Gray, I would imagine. So on that spot, I'd have no hesitation in having him back. He's a Scotland international. He's a good user of the ball. If we're going to play it from the back, he's a good footballer. Centre of the defence instead of Rocky. My only hesitation with that is he's not as good in the air as Big Mar Ekpiteta. I still think we miss. Although we didn't lose many goals from crosses, thank goodness, one or two, but not as many as we did last season. So, long rambling answer is, I'd be happy to have him back, but I'd rather keep Rocky.
Joe, do you think there's space for both of them? Could we potentially see Rocky and Ryan at the club?
I don't see why not, because I've got to disagree slightly. I'm not a huge Ekpiteta fan. We're up in a class here. We're going to have Europe to play in as well, and hopefully get past the first two rounds and have a run until Christmas or something like that, even if it's in the Conference League. I think we need to bring in another centre half if Rocky leaves, for sure. But having both Rocky and Porteous, so that would be a bonus. But if you go back to if you look at Jose Marina 20 years ago when he started with Chelsea, he got the whole spine of the team: goalkeeper, centre half, central midfield, centre forward sorted out. When Graham Souness, much maligned, but when he took over Rangers 40 years ago, nearly, he took the spine of the English team: the English goalkeeper, international, centre half, central midfield, and centre forward. We've had this conversation before. And I think Hibs are weak in two parts of that spine now. We've got goalie covered. We've got central midfield covered. Better still, if we manage to get Triantis to be signed, but got that covered. But it's at centre half and centre forward. We need to bring in more players, in my view, especially centre forward.
Yeah, I think striker. We talked about it on extra time, and that is the sort of the area that I think is most concerning at the moment. John, I'm going to come to you next and get your talking point. I'm just going to read a couple of the YouTube comments. So David Granio said, "Hi guys." Stevie says, "Even in all, any images being released for the Hibs top next season, assuming we have a new top?" I haven't seen any images. I'm told that the home top is going to have a distinctly retro feel, particularly if you get long sleeves. So I don't know if that kind of gives you a flavour for it. I'm hoping it's a sort of 6-2 esque style strip with with a round collar and sort of plain top. So, and
It
apparently,
depends what generation. I mean, because there's that immediately brought back Tornado's tops to me when we
yeah,
started talking about the long sleeves. I mean, Alan Gordon, I mean, long sleeves, white cuffs. I mean,
and that's sort of the emerald green as well, isn't it? From for that Stevie said also, I can't understand why folks wouldn't want Porto back. He's an international defender and we get him for loose change. He's a Hibs man, no Scottish football inside out and would shine. And Gray would definitely get the best out of him if he was to return. Myself personally would love him back. Kenny said, evening everyone. Stevie said Rocky won't be at Hibs next season. He would have definitely signed by now. John McGlynn, evening bangers. Stevie says, I remember when we were all sighing about getting Triantis back on loan last season, how times change, and an evening bangers from Ronnie as well there. Right, there's a few more comments. I'll come back to him in a minute. John, I'm going to come back to you. What do you want to bring up?
well, just in terms of what we're discussing there, our back three last year had somebody on the right side who could play football, somebody on the left side who could play football, and Rocky took over from Ekpiteta when he got injured. I mean, and both of their roles were basically the hard man role in the middle. I mean, where you're taking on the strikers, you're winning the headed balls. I mean, Ekpiteta got into bother when we were asking him to overplay at the back. I mean, that's a lot of the early season stuff. There was a lot of overplaying and just not getting it right. But once the back three settled in, I mean, I would say that Ekpiteta would sit quite happily in the centre of a three, but it depends who's playing either side. And if you bring Porto back, potentially he goes to the right side of that, and it's then O'Hora that then you start questioning what his role is. So it's that sort of idea where you're going to have 4 or 5, probably 5 centre back or players who can go in at centre back at the club, and you want to have the quality because we in August we will be playing Thursday, Sunday. I mean, for 4 weeks. So you've got to be able to play with the full squad, the 16 players. I mean, that'll include defenders getting a bit of time out.
How much is it like advisable to rotate your defence, John? I always sort of think that if there's one area of the pitch you shouldn't really muck about with, it's like your defensive unit.
It's going to depend on legs and time in the game, and it's what you start with and what you finish with. I mean, so if you're going to prioritise the European games, but we can't do what we did a couple of years ago, which is just go 3 and out. I mean, in the first 3 league games.
Yeah.
I mean, and think that that's going to be acceptable. So the ability to sort of put some fresh legs into the centre of defence at 60 minutes, I mean, is going to be important. Normally, you would think about changing up top and you change in midfield. You're not going to bring on 3 brand new fullbacks. You're going to keep whoever manages to seal the gloves. They're going to be in, and getting that rapport built up, because we saw last season Grant's goal at Easter Road for Hearts was a classic example of defenders and goalie not really knowing each other and not knowing what to do or what each would do in that situation. Those are the things that will be sorted out in pre-season.
Yeah. Jeff, you've got your hand up.
Just on rotation, I noticed as I got older, I moved further back and I ended up playing centre half, left back, right back. And I wish I'd played there all my life because I'd still be playing now. It's so much easier than either just behind the front 2 or playing up front. I just think you don't need to rotate your defence as much with the games, personally, unless somebody's been run ragged by a Neymar or Ronaldo or something. But definitely need legs in the middle and up front. That's where we need the rotation if we're going to spend money. If we keep Rocky and still got Ekpiteta, I'm quite happy. But I don't think you should be changing your defence unless we're 3 or 4-0 up and you want to you properly rotate. Then that's fine. But otherwise, leave the defence alone.
Can I just come in there to say
ahead,
that if we don't keep Rocky, I agree that Ekpiteta is a solid guy, but we need to have another centre half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with Europe, etc.
Yeah, I can't see a situation where we're letting Rocky go without replacing him. Like, I don't think that will happen. John, I get what you're saying with the players that start the game under the players that finish the game, right? And David Gray's shown that a lot, and he has done it with the centre halves as well. So I suppose when you have that rotation in game, it doesn't matter so much when you're changing it game to game, because the players are all playing with each other over a period of time.
But the idea that there's a starting back three, but if we even take someone like if Miller's playing on the right hand side, I mean, Miller can move to full back and take whoever's playing right wing back, whether that's Cadden or whatever. I mean, so there can be movements that you're doing to freshen up further up the field. I mean, and the back line can give you that. I think, but there's also the idea if you're playing Thursday, Sunday at the start of a season, these are all going to be pressure games. I mean, so there's a psychological side to it. So I think that there's understanding when you've got 5 subs. I mean, the ability to move one, but that's why you need 5 in there, and you're going to pick up injuries as well.
Definitely.
So
Stephen,
it's not that idea that it's not the ice hockey thing where you start with 3. I mean, and on the Sunday you have a different 3. I'm not meaning that. I'm meaning the idea that you go away from the idea that you don't ever do it to that 4-week period. You know what I mean? Just to get the best out of the whole team.
Yeah, that makes sense. Stephen, John mentioned it's not acceptable if we go 3 and 0 as we did under Johnson, wasn't it? We had the decent European run, horrendous league run, eventually cost him his job. Have we learned this season that if that was the case this season coming, it's not necessarily catastrophic, and we don't need to bin David Gray if we didn't get off to the best league start?
It's I guess it's just finding a squad depth and size that David Gray feels comfortable with. I can't quite remember the 3 games that Johnson had, but if I recall, they weren't the most difficult on paper, and I think what didn't help him, well, not least the fact that he's a fucking idiot, what didn't help him is that I think we expected maybe 7 or 9 points from those 3 games and we got 0. So I guess when the fixtures come out, which I think might be next week or the week after, I think they're due out quite soon, it would be nice to see potentially 2 of the first 3 games are at home, especially when you've got the home and away in the Europe. That would be good. And who knows, if we can avoid maybe a derby or a Rangers or Celtic right at the start, maybe it gives us a chance to potentially rotate and keep players fresh, especially if there's a big second leg either away or at home in Europe as well. So I guess what David needs to do ahead of I think the European draw is definitely next week. What he needs to do is he needs to get a squad in place that he at least feels comfortable with his starting 11, and then potentially the 16 that will potentially be on the pitch at some point across the 90 minutes. He needs to be comfortable with the 16 that he has, that he feels probably likely to be the positions, i.e. defence or midfield, that need the replacement of legs. Because keeping in mind, the qualifying round, I think, is, I can't recall exactly if it is after the first, I'm presuming it's before the first league game, with it being the qualifying rounds. So chances are we're going to have them before we've even had a league game to contend with. And I don't think we've lined up a huge amount of friendlies so far. And I'm not entirely sure the quality of friendly opposition will definitely benefit the early European rounds. So I guess he just needs to get a nucleus of maybe 20 players that he's comfortable with to use 16 out of in the first couple of rounds in Europe, Matty.
I agreed. Ian, has the bar been raised from this season? So going into next season, are the expectations higher than they were at the start of last season now?
Yeah, I thought last year, at the start of the season, I thought we'd be 4th. I think we've definitely outperformed everyone's expectations. It's quite interesting. One of the reflections of that is clearly the number of internationals we've got. It's amazing just seeing the Hibs website. Incredible, the number of internationals. I had no memory of us having that number of internationals before. And I think that reflects the quality of the squad. So I think we've moved beyond Ryan Porteous. I think we've got better players than Ryan Porteous at the moment. I got tired of watching Ryan cheating. He just, he'll have had to have changed a hell of a lot. But I just got tired of him. And if Rocky goes, it's quite interesting because Richard Taylor turned down and the St Mirren deal. I always wondered, thought, why did St Mirren let one of the best players go? And Richard Taylor seemingly turned down a new deal. So we should definitely be, if Rocky goes, then Richard Taylor would be a brilliant fit. It's funny though, when you were talking about on extra time, and I would definitely agree with you. The urgency of getting some sort of strategy in place for introducing youth players. As you and Colin both said, there's no way you can fit the successful under 18 team who won the league. You can't fit them in, and we have to find a way of doing that. Otherwise, as you both said, there's what's the point in having them? So I think our squad is in great shape. I really do. I wanted to talk about something else. I wanted to talk about a winning culture, if that's okay. When I was thinking about
Joe popped his hand up, so I'll get Joe's point, and then I'll come back to you, and we can have a look at that. Yeah, definitely. Joe, on you go.
Just a very quick relevant point. Because of bloody Aberdeen winning the cup final, our dates are the 24th and 31st of July. So we've got to get the team together quite quickly, Ian, to back up what you just said.
There's not a lot of time to do it. Ian, right, so a winning culture, go for it.
Yeah, winning culture. I mean, I just feel that the last time I felt like we would ever win anything was 50 years ago, right? And if you remember the cup final, right, and some of the players said that. I mean, when you look back at the cup final, us winning the cup, the only reason we really won is because the people who were in the team didn't know that we usually lose. And it was, because obviously Stokesy was instrumental, but also David Gray was still quite new to us. Gunnarsson, all these guys, Liam Henderson, I mean, these guys, they just did not know that we were expected to lose. So when Hillary scored and our shoulders went down and we thought we played okay. We managed to score and it was a good game. We didn't expect to win. Well, I certainly didn't. And I think we've somehow got to get the Black Knight involvement with us, changing our culture. And I think we're in pretty good shape. But I think we could look probably no better example than actually Grant Scott. So obviously, Grant Scott, if you remember what he did throughout the season, he was saying, "Oh, that's fine. We just looked at the next game. We looked at the next game." And then when it came to the final game, he said, "Why not us? Why not us?" And I thought it was brilliant. So I think the sort of winning culture, if you look at the sort of business side of it, your clear shared vision, your prioritising character over talent, building a sense of ownership, foster an environment of accountability, celebrate the little wins, and create an environment where people believe that success is possible. I think that David Gray is well down the road of actually doing that. And I think we should be looking ahead, maybe not this season, but certainly beyond that. We should be looking to actually build on the wins we had over the Old Firm this past season. And we should go in and actually expect that we're going to people believe that success is possible. We should be looking far more ambitiously to the future than we have. We shouldn't be thinking about how do we get better than last season. We should be saying, how do we become a top club? I realise that Celtic have got like 100 times their revenue or whatever. We don't have the sectarianism that drives a lot of their support, but I really think we should be thinking big, very big, and we've got to build in our club a real winning culture.
John, you got your hand up.
I think, the winning culture, but I think we've got to back it up. I mean, the squad has to look like a squad that is going to just win in the league. I've said before about the Aberdeen team. It's sort of the mid to late years of the last decade. Shinnie at his prime, having come from Inverness, Christie having come from Inverness and then on loan. They had McLean in there. Had the laddie up who's now at Spurs, who scored the free kick, kind of mind thing. And
Madison.
They put real quality into the team. So there is I think we could probably go out to Easter Road and there's 3 or 4 people who could give us a presentation that would cover every one of the points that Ian's just made there. But the idea is it's all about deeds. And I think part of us, I think we have to move away to some extent from being over reliant on we've got to bring through youngsters, right? And where I come from that is that we're looking to finish third or fourth in the league. I mean, my argument is we should be targeting 70 points, which would put us towards second or third in the league, on a regular basis. Lennon Miller's the only 18-year-old in the league that we could put in midfield that would allow us to achieve that. He's the ones in that generation. He's the one generational player in Scotland at the moment. You could argue that Conor Barron, who's a couple of years older than him, was maybe the player before that. They both played for Scotland at the weekend. We hoovered up Josh Doig a few years ago. He came on. That's the level of quality of young player that we've seen. We've got Kieran Bowie, who we're all genuinely excited about, and rightly so.
Yep.
But that's the quality level. So that's why Ryan Porteous falls into the Scott Allen category. Youngster who had a promising career in Scotland and dived away down south. Fraser Fivey, can they come back up and make the difference? Is there a Ewan Henderson that we can borrow from somebody else who's going to be good enough? To improve the team. That's what we've got to do. So Ian's right, you've got to have that. Gray and the management team have shown that they can get players to perform well in really hard games. So the one thing that Ian's mantra all last season, we now have a manager who's a seasoned knowledge of the good and the bad and the indifferent. In terms of what a squad can produce. Right, we've now got to look behind that and say, right, okay, if Triantis is our target, then don't do what we did last. We knew that 1.25 million was a buyout clause for what's his name at Dundee, and we kept creeping towards it. Now the chances are that Celtic might have just came over the top of us anyway, but Celtic were waiting to see what they needed to do to balance their 25-player squad and have their 8 players from Scotland. So if we really wanted them, Luke McCowan, we should have gone in and said, right, there's a 1.25 million. Celtic, stand up now or he's coming to us. That sounds really bold, but we tickled around that and ended up making ourselves look silly. Sorry, that's a bit of a rant.
That's good, John. That's good, John. Yeah, I agree.
Very well put. And we might not have had the shite start to the season had we done that. And I'd had him in the team early.
He can get bad luck. He could pull a hamstring. Manager could tackle him at training. Loads of things could happen.
Manager could tackle him. Jeff, you've got your hand up. I'll bring you in.
Yeah, just John's point on youth players and that. Will the new cooperation system that means we can loan players out but bring them back to play, will that affect anyone's thinking? So say is it Jacob McIntyre? The brother who I'm quite excited about, he could go out and loan again. We can bring him back when we're short of a midfielder or two if we get a lot of injuries. That's how I understand it. We can have them back in, but they can also go out and loan. So that might actually help some of our league-winning under-18s team. But I know he wasn't in it. He's the year above or 2 years above now.
What do you think of that setup, Jeff?
Well, anything that gets young players getting game time. Rudy was the only one last season that I can think of. Lewis Gilly got 20 minutes against Clydebank because we had 2 injuries on that side. Am I missing anybody? I can't think of anyone else that came through.
And Rudy deserves another chance, by the way.
Oh, really? Yeah, absolutely, Joe. I'm just saying, because of injuries, he kind of figured out a wee bit. We got on the winning run, and you're not going to change the team. And then he was injured. I spoke to him in the car park at St Mirren on this penultimate game, and he was obviously gutted, but hoping to be back for pre-season. Anyway, I digress. But the point is, the cooperation system may actually assist us if we've got youths who are bordering on. Want to give them game time? Okay, send them out on loan, but we've got a game coming up where we can probably use him. Stick him on the bench and give him 20 minutes. Hopefully, that'll help some of the guys who might fall through the system. We've had loads who look like they might be good, but never got the chance and end up.
Is the importance in that not going to be who the partner is? I've seen people naturally say, "Oh, it's going to be Edinburgh City," but actually, is Edinburgh City truly the level on a plastic pitch that we want to be putting our youngsters out to?
Well, this was the conversation we had on extra time. Was I think clubs traditionally see the benefit of putting Premier League youngsters down to the lower divisions is they play against men, and it's a physical benefit that they get from it. But actually, there's a big, massive drop in technical quality between the top flight and the League One or League Two. And there's a League Two in Scotland. Do we go as low down as that?
Yeah,
Aye.
yeah, but the thing is with the does it have to be? I'm just reading it now. Corporation club. So the parent club and the corporation club. Does it have to be the same club for all our players to go to, or can we go to a corporation club? Give McIntyre to one, give Rory Whittaker to another. They're a corporating club. How does it work?
I don't know. I don't know. Should anybody know?
No. Okay, so
maybe one of the listeners can Google it and fire the answer in
well, I'm looking at
the
the
comments.
website, and it doesn't make it clear. It has to be a club that we lend them to. So we might send some of the better ones to the. I mean, the Scottish Championship isn't great, but at least it's, they're getting game time, Megwa, etc. Didn't do too badly at Partick, so we'll see. Anyway, just a point that it may actually assist us to get some of our youngsters who are promising, get some first team and see what they're like in a good team, playing well with confidence, stick them in and see if they look the part.
My point, Matty, is that I really think it's time that we raised our expectations considerably. So now that we've got Black Knight involved, I just think that we should be looking way beyond what we've done in the past, in my view, in the past 50 years. So I look back today at the results in Turnbull Tornadoes, and we're getting beat by Partick Thistle, we're getting beat by people because we didn't have a big enough squad. So the football was great, but we still expected to get beat by Celtic when we went to Hampden, and I'd like it to get beyond that. And if that means we have to bring in players that don't expect to get beat, then I think David Gray is just, as I said earlier, has made such an improvement, as John recognised there, in terms of improving our players, but also in terms of the culture of the place. And I think we're in a great shape to do that, to really look beyond next season.
And Stephen, I suppose this is the key, isn't it? When you have a good season like we had last season, is how do you capitalise it and make sure that's no one-off? So to get that winning culture that Ian's talking about, what do the club need to do to make sure that next season, like this season wasn't a flash in the pan, and next season is better than it?
I think you need to set the expectations right at the get-go, probably now, actually, especially in the negotiations with any new players. You say, this is where we're at, this is where we want to continue. If anything, as Ian's pointed out, we want to get even better. The fact we finished third with, 58 points? Most seasons, 58 points wouldn't get you third. I seem to remember we finished fourth under your game. We had something like 62 or something like that. So 58 points next season, I don't think is going to get third place. So we need to do better than next season. Whether or not we can push Rangers for second, because I think Celtic win it again, that has to be, you could argue, an unrealistic aim, but it's an aim nonetheless. So in negotiations with players, you come in, you say to them, this is where we're at, this is where we want to continue, we want to strengthen the position that we're in. Obviously, the lack of guaranteed European football, the group stage is a bit of a blow probably to the budget and potentially the offers that could be made to the likes of Porteous and things. But I think, as Ian said, you try and drive forward the ambition that the club has, where it wants to get to, where it wants to get to and stay, and you really use that as a bargaining chip. I think it's record season ticket sales already so far as well. So the fans are doing their best to back the club financially. So the club needs to do right by the fans and do the same with the negotiations of players and contracts and things like that as well, Matty.
Spot on. Kieran on the YouTube comments said, starting to see the consequences of Aberdeen winning the Cup. Missed out on two players now, looking like Rocky won't be staying, and Triantis looks a toss of a coin. Is it worrying? And is anybody worried that the fallout from Aberdeen winning the Cup is going to stop us getting players in that we might otherwise have been able to get?
We should congratulate Kieran on his first cap before anything else. Yeah. Thanks for calling in, Kieran.
This is Kieran Gallagher rather than Bowie.
Oh, yeah.
I think Rocky would have been moving on anyway. I think he was moving on. It will have. The fact you can't guarantee group stage football in Europe will impact on what players would come. Whether was it? I'm looking at Xaxier Simons as the boy who's just gone to Bolton. We can all boo him on the 19th of July when they come for the friendly. I mean, but it's that whole idea where he might just be happy down in that part of the country. Young family, doesn't really want to move away from home, and that's why he's picked. I mean, so there's so many things in
Basically
the
a shite
background.
bag,
Yeah.
Lack of character.
Aye.
Wants to play in the English first. Is it the first division?
Good riddance to him.
And not play in Europe.
Yeah, there was a last minute fax came in to say that he's a dickhead.
Aye. There's no ambition about the boy anyway. It's they
know
want
what?
him at the club.
I mean, we've got to be,
You are
we've
going
got to be,
but it's
we've got to be
Go ahead.
excited about Obita getting his first cap and playing against Manny. I mean, that's
Mhm.
fucking brilliant. That's incredible.
John, you mentioned forget about playing the young players and get good quality players in to compete and get the first team successful. Is this like
I
a
think
sort of
we have to bring young
temporary?
players through, but they've
Uh-huh.
got to be good enough. I think
Yep.
we have to have the stand, and we have to get away from the idea of we're giving players minutes for the sake of it. I think the
Mhm.
Lewis Gilly thing against Clydebank, that's about giving a young player the feeling of what's it like to go on the pitch in a senior. There'll be psychological things that you're breaking down by doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're taking away the fear, you're giving them there's lots of things that you're doing. We did it with Rory Whittaker the year before. I mean, there's lots of things that you do in terms of putting apples in front of people to try and get them to chase on, give them experiences to grow as a player. So there's lots of that in it. But I think fundamentally, they've got to be good enough. And we've seen those players come through. We've seen McGinn came to us at 20, and we've seen how he developed.
Ian, you raised about the winning culture. What practical steps did you take to get there?
We just have to reinforce. I mean, when I look at the criteria, when I look at the components of the winning culture, the David Gray seems to be doing a lot right so far, in terms of the environment he creates. So I think we're well on the way to doing that, and I think all we need Black Knight to do is to support us in our ambitions. So we have to think about filling in the corners of the stadium. We need to think about we need to think big picture. We need to set the expectations that next year we do actually qualify for Europe. We should definitely be. I like John's idea. He's mentioned the 70 points before. I like John's idea about having that as a target, as opposed to saying we're going to be in such and such place. I like the fact that we're in a strong position now. We've outperformed, so I don't think we need to do much. But Black Knight needs to support us financially, because we've obviously outperformed their expectations, and they need to come in now and say, okay, if we need to get in a top class centre forward, or we need to replace a player. Although I don't really think we do. But if David wants to bring in somebody who either covers for a position or whatever, Black Knight have to step in. I think it's great that Black Knight now are actually having David Gray down for a training session. That should happen more often. I hope they have Grant Scott down there as well. So I'd like to be more integrated with Black Knight, because they've got the ambition level that we as a club have not had up till now. And so I think we should embrace them and really just look ahead to big leaps.
Joe, you put your hand up there. On you go.
Yeah, whatever happens, we need to.
What about So we're looking at last season. I noticed a comment for Stevie there on YouTube. Said Celtic and Sevco are too far ahead, folks. We're playing for third. Last season, and Joe, I'll start with you. Our form, I think it's from December through to more or less the end of the season. We were toe-to-toe with Celtic. Why not us? To take Ian's point from earlier. Why not us? Why can't we take that over a full season?
I don't see any reason why I don't think we'll get Celtic. They're too far out of sight for a few years. But there's no reason why we can't catch Rangers if we get the key players. We need to bolster our squad, because we're going to have Europe as well as the weekend. And I'm hoping that we can get to the end of August and be into group stages, even if it's in the Conference League.
Sure.
So we've got to think big and think bigger. And so we need to recruit fast, because we need 4 or 5 new players, a couple of extra strikers. What happens if Kieran Bowie gets injured? What have we got? We've got Hee-Haw.
Did any of us think that Celtic would be as weak as they were last season? Did any of us think that Celtic would make as many mistakes and stumble as much as they did last season? I certainly didn't, but I'm really glad they did.
Yeah, so I think the Celtics suffered from the lack of a sustained challenge. I think they were able to sort of play with their foot off the gas for a long time towards the end of the season. You saw the results and the performances drop off. I think it was almost like, I would say too easy for them, but it really was. Like Rangers didn't challenge them. Aberdeen looked like they might challenge them for a couple of months at the start of the season and fell away, and we were too far behind to start off with to challenge them. So I think that's where they suffered. But if somebody can sustain it from early on, it'd be interesting to see what Celtic do. Jeff, the idea of building a squad. So Hibs have got actually like a kind of sticker twist moment here is we're a couple of games away from group stage European football, which is a stated ambition of the club. They want to be there every season. To get there, we're going to have to improve the quality of the squad. So they're going to have to spend the money. Do they gamble on getting there? Do they bring in players good enough that might cost us financially if we don't make it?
$64,000 question, Matty. Thank you. Do we have to spend the money, or can we get the odd loan player from Bournemouth that will really help the team? Spend the money where we have to, and people like Triantis maybe. Rocky on an improved contract. Although I like everyone else think Rocky's away. I don't think there's any chance of us keeping him, unfortunately. So just say we do speculate and we spend money on Triantis, we spend money on a couple of forwards to challenge Bowie or play alongside him, and maybe one other player. And then we don't reach group stage football. We have a horrendous start in the league. We get knocked out of the League Cup, get a bad draw again. We don't have to make those decisions. Don't know the fully financial implications of it, but I would say they've shown that they're willing to speculate. They tried to get McCowan. Good point by whoever was it. Other John mentioned about we should have just splashed the money. It's like when I bought this house in a lovely village in the Lakes. We saw it if we want it, just pay the full price straight away. Otherwise, we're going to lose it. We want a Celtic or Rangers coming in and getting it from under our feet. So my view is to spend. Because they left it right to the last minute of the transfer window, and we were just left with egg on our face. But yeah, I would. As a fan, I'd love them to speculate, get the players in, and if we don't make it, it's not through lack of trying. It showed the ambition. Maybe get bums on seats, and in the league, although we might not make Europe, these players might propel us to second. You never know. If Rangers, who haven't, they've got a manager now. Sorry, they have got a manager, but they haven't made any signings. Have lost loads of players. They could have a shit season. I mean, really, you don't know what's going to happen there. Russell Martin.
It's basically Paul Heckenbottom who they've brought in, isn't it? Like
it is, yeah. I mean, Hecky was unlucky with us. I like Hecky as a bloke as well. So, your original question, I hope they do speculate and spend the money and show some ambition. Maybe sell a few more season tickets. If we do get group stage football, it's going to be tough. I mean, we've seen other clubs every Thursday, Sunday, playing away in Eastern Europe. Coming back, going up to Ross County on the Sunday, or I don't know, Aberdeen or somewhere. It's not easy, even with a big squad.
Yeah.
But I would love them to do it. I'd love to speculate. But I'd understand if they didn't, and maybe hedge their bets to see if we got group stage and then splash out a few more players. I don't know. Is a short answer.
Stephen, I suppose that there is that almost like a fail-safe, isn't it? Like in that if you build a squad good enough to get to the group stages of the Conference League, for example, and fall short, that squad should be good enough to make sure you qualify this season coming.
Absolutely. I think this is the last season where there's the guaranteed entry via cups and things like that. So I'm with Jeff. I think we need to have, at the very least, a good go at getting the squad in place to challenge for it. And if we don't get it, and we've attempted to get it through spending some decent money, fair enough. But you're right, it would stand us in better stead for the coming season, because I would imagine Aberdeen are going to strengthen. Hearts have already started to strengthen. I think the top five, I can't see Dundee United sustaining any sort of challenge like they did this season. I think the top five, which I would put us in, I think will be a bit further ahead than the other 7 teams in the league. So we need to strengthen to try and get into the group stages, and ergo that will hopefully stand us in better stead across the full season as well. Because I think the top 5 will be probably a bit further ahead this season. So yeah, I'd love us to go for it. I think that the Gordons have kept the club financially pretty stable despite losses and things like that. And they've, they're not losses if the owners are willing to cover the losses, I suppose. I think that's been discussed before. The club seems to have a plan in place to try and stabilise the finances. So I can't see another season where the finances are shambolic, but clearly the club for that financial basis. And there's if it's the Conference League, there's 3 home games. If it's the Europa League, there's 4 home games. 20,000 sellouts. I think you get something like 200k for a draw in the Europa League, maybe 400k for a win. That then starts to pay back, and then some of what you've potentially put out in transfers as well. So, I'm obviously I don't own a football club. If I did, I'd probably go bankrupt in less than a season. But I would like to think that there is a substantial figure there. Clearly, if we're willing to put close to $1 million at least for Triantis, there's probably it's at least a 7-figure sum that's there, and you would like to think there's some left over to then try and identify, as Joe said, a striker. We definitely need a striker. 100% think we need a striker.
I couldn't agree more. Everything has just been said. With 2 words: think big. It might be 4 or 5 seasons before we've got this chance in Europe again. There's a wonderful book called The Magic of Thinking Big by a guy called David Schwartz. Think big. We need to think big and act big now while we've got the chance. In the next 4 weeks, we need to spend money, get 3 or 4 key players, 2 strikers, another central defensive player in my view. Get 3 really good players, 2 good strikers and another good central defensive, because Rocky's away, I think, and I don't think Porteous will come. So think big, buy 3 quality players, 2 strikers and another centre half. And let's really go for it in Europe. I'm looking forward to the group stages. There you go.
Good.
Joe, you're down as LinkedIn, and LinkedIn you're still down as a consultant. Are you actually available for Hibs to hire? You're still a consultant, yeah. You're still a business consultant,
yeah. That's right.
I agree with Joe. I'm really excited. I would rather have more European guys. So I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I'm dead excited about last season. Was great, and it was enjoyable. We were successful, and I'm really looking forward. I'm really positive in a way I haven't been for many years.
John, does it show the scale of the size of the task in front of us, where we're talking about spending £1 million plus on Triantis, which would effectively be to stand still on last season? How much are we needing to chuck it to improve?
The idea is that Triantis, the player that we had in August, improved through the season. So the player that we had at the end of the season was better. You bring him in for a full pre-season, get him in with the team, he improves. So you're bringing in an improving player rather than a player that's reached a level. So if we had him, if he was 28 and we had him last season and we're bringing him in, you would be pretty much getting the same. But actually, we're putting it in to get that improvement. I think Jeff made the point about we do our business, but actually, what can the rest of the group give us? I mean, if there are loans to be had, again, let's not let these loans be sort of absolutely last minute coming in the 29th of August stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, let these things go. But is it next Wednesday? Is it 20th or something next week? They'll have the draw.
Yeah.
Right. And I wonder if it was our money that we were sitting with, you'd probably want to sit and see who you've got in the draw to see how hard you roll the dice. If you're doing it from that business perspective.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
It's because if we draw Legia Warsaw, in the Europa, fabulous away day. That would be immense to go to that stadium. I wouldn't necessarily hold out a lot of hope that we would necessarily come out with a positive result from the tie, though, given the size of that team and their history in Europe. You'd still go for it. You don't give up. So there's bits in there that say having that core where we're going to be successful in August and in the league and have a good turn at Europe, because the worst that's going to happen to us from the Europa draws is we're going to go into the conference.
Mm.
And at that point, the quality opposition changes. You know what I mean? So you've still got that sort of in your background. So, yeah, it might not be a full roll of the dice, but I think that you've got to do something.
Stephen, you put your hand up.
Aye, Mike, sorry, I'm having IT issues here. Yeah, it's just taking back on your point about Triantis, if he came in permanently standing still. I very rarely disagree with you, Matt, but I will there, because I think with him being 21, he's only going to get better. And I believe Australia qualified for the World Cup as well. So he's potentially going to have the carrot of getting into that Australian squad for the World Cup next summer. And that might play into our hands if he comes back to Hibs. He knows the club, he knows the group of players, certainly the nucleus of the group of players that are there. He knows the manager. He knows he's got the real platform to do exactly what he's done this season, and getting nominated for the Player of the Year. So I think Triantis, in fact, the more I think about it, the more I think we need to properly push the ball out for him and get him, because he's going to have the carrot of trying to get into the World Cup squad for Australia. He's already got the kudos from being nominated for the Player of the Year. I think he got our Young Player of the Year, didn't he? So
He did, yeah. That
all, to me, makes sense. That's what hopefully Hibs have got as part of their bargaining chips when they're sitting down at the table as well. So, I think John's right. I feel pre-season under his belt, I think he actually pushes on and gets even better next season, 100%.
Jason has said, discuss Venti. Is there much to discuss on Venti, Jeff?
The mood music from Holland would suggest no. But he's still our player, and if we're short of strikers, nobody's signed by the time the first European game comes up. He's going to be on the bench, if not playing. But I presume he'd be a bench. But I don't think there's 90% chance he'll stay in Holland now. Looking at, he had a good season. He's already said he wants to stay there. David Gray won't want an unhappy player. Kind of ruins our bargaining. Lessens our bargaining power when we're trying to sell him to Holland. They know he wants to be there. They know we want rid of him. But no, I can't see him being a Hibs player. But if he is, I'll support him. Maybe under a different system, he might thrive.
Ian, we've also got Yuan in that bracket as well. I suppose is a player who's been wanting to get away for or has been reported to be wanting to get away for a wee while, coming into his last year of his contract too. Do you envisage either Yuan or Venti starting the season at Hibs?
I just don't understand what Ellie was doing last season. I don't see the point of Ellie. He was just so inconsistent. Venti, if Venti wants to be a Hibs player, then I think we should have him, because he's a proven striker, much better than Miko, who we suffered last year. But if he doesn't want to be Hibs, then he should be let go. And my understanding was that Simon Murray was on a 1-year contract, and he's a much better player than either of them. So. But we'll have to at least think about it. I know you were speculating about it and joking about Jamie Vardy on extra time, but I think there's nothing. We shouldn't rule out signing a very experienced striker who can help other people. I was very aware that of the individual one-on-one coaching required for people, and it helps enormously to have an individual coach who specialises it. It's a real shame when we had the opportunity a few years ago to take Kenny Miller as a coach that we didn't do that, because Kenny Miller would be the perfect coach. I'm aware we don't have any real forward coach at the moment, so I would have Venti if he wanted us.
Can I come in on what Ian's just said? I wouldn't think twice about having another go at getting Simon Murray. No question. I'd have him in a flash. If he can score all those goals in a crap team, what could he do with Hibs?
Aye. We've done no bad with the veteran strikers over the years, like Grant Holt, Mixu, Dwight Gale, as you mentioned there. There is definitely room for a player like that at Hibs. I think we use them quite well, or we certainly have recently.
Do you remember how embarrassing it was when Grant Holt went and he walked right across the pitch and out the door? It was a real shame, Could I just say that I'm actually drinking Leith whiskey tonight?
Oh yeah, very good.
Very good.
Right, we are out of time. As we hit 9 o'clock, and I need to go and take the dugout. So,
what about the score on Saturday? Come on, we need to speculate the score on Saturday.
what's the game on Saturday?
Jeff and I are cycling on the 21st of June to the training centre from Easter Road. Please sponsor us.
Jeff, you're shaking your head. Have you been ruled out?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's my son's 40th on the Saturday, and I will be incapacitated Sunday morning.
So I will be the sole long bangers representative.
You'll be the sole long banger.
You'll be carrying the flag for us, Ian.
Yeah.
After cycling in the Hebrides last week, the East Lothian is going to be a scoosh for me. So please sponsor me.
Well, I'm Ian. Share your. I don't know if you're on Twitter or I know you're on Facebook, but if you share your link, I'll post on our socials as well. We have a long bangers team playing at the Corn Exchange on Saturday as well. It's an all-day football tournament organised by Salmon's Pizzeria for Dementia Scotland as well. So we've got a team participating in that.
Can we speculate on the score there? I mean, we should do that.
Yeah. Well, I will be going in goals for most of it. So,
what date's that, Matty? What date is that?
What day is Saturday? What's today?
Okay.
The 14th.
Jeff wants to play.
I was supposed to be on holiday in Paphos this week, but we had a medical problem with Mrs. A, so I originally said I couldn't play, but actually...
Well, we've got a space if you want to play, Jeff. You can just give me a shout. You've got my number.
After the programme's finished, Matty.
Aye, nice one. Anyway, if anyone wants to come and watch, I think our first game kicks off at midday. I'll probably play in goals because I think if I try to run around and nobody needs to see that, let alone me.
Where is it, Matty?
Corn Exchange at Cheshire.
Yeah.
Anyway. Good. Yeah, right. So if you come along and watch, we'll see you there. If not, we'll see you all on Sunday, guys. Thanks very much for coming along. It's been a pleasure as always, and we'll see you next time.